Lisa Davis here from Life Trade. I'm super excited today to be interviewing the most incredible human, as well as to have my dear friend Robin here, who is going to be hosting workshops with this wonderful human. I would like to introduce you to Andrew Kenneth Fretwell from the Inner School of Alchemy. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really grateful to have you. And thank you to Robs.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. So today we would just like to discuss some really important things that I feel that we can all learn from, as well as for you to tell us what workshops you'll be running in Johannesburg. So welcome, Andrew. Thanks for coming.
I'm so grateful to be here, Lisa, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. And yeah.
Beautiful. So please, can you tell us, I'd love to start where the basis of all this is and who you are. Essentially, what is an alchemist teacher? What is it that you do?
What I do is I clarify and make really simple how to bring together our personality and our soul into a functioning whole. And I clarify and simplify and make it really clear what self-love is. What is self-love? You know, I think there's a lot of fuzzy information out there about that. And everything that I share is about supporting people in understanding these two things, how to bring the soul and the personality into a functioning whole, and how to bring more self-love into our life through I would say, deep forgiveness and a deep understanding of what these bodies are as collectors and storehouses of ancestral memory, and what the soul is as this divine living in non-linear time and feeling free and abundant and totally, you know, free, basically. So how do you bring these two things together? You know, and I think all modalities out there, not just mine, but all modalities are really at the essence talking about self-love and how to integrate the soul and the personality into a functioning whole.
Beautiful. So let's tap right in terms of talking about these key core concepts that you're talking about, and then we'll go into more detail about the spaces that you hold in order to share this information with people. I think that it is something that people strive their entire lives for. And I think it is the basis of essentially what we're here to do. But Andrew, please share with us, like, what is self-love?
Yeah, I mean, great. Okay. So for me, a definition of self-love is the ability to merge with anything or anyone without losing our center. So we can also include with that, how do we merge with our shadow aspects? How do we love our shadow aspects without losing our center? And Robin will know about this. I had a dream last night, and I think it's very appropriate that this dream came last night. It was crystal clear. It was a download from my soul. And I realized that there was just a small lack of clarity about losing center. Like, what is it that allows us to lose our center? So that could be our shadow aspects. But what is the right attitude to have when we are coming in touch with the parts of ourselves that don't feel so loving, we could say, or what I call the shadow? And you, as a plant medicine person, you know that by taking plant medicine, you actually face your shadow. That, you know, the medicine actually helps us integrate shadow, right? In sometimes in a very, you know, powerful and strong way. And of course, human beings every single day face their shadow. So for example, this morning I woke up and I could feel a part of me, you know, is a very familiar part of me that was feeling like not my true self in a way, like some shadow aspect that was there, you know. And it's a familiar feeling. For most of us, we meet these nearly every day. We meet these shadow parts, you know. So getting back to my dream, you know, so remember, love is the ability, and we can say self-love as well, is the ability to merge with anything or anyone without losing our center. So what does that mean in our day-to-day life? Well, it means that we always meet these painful places. We meet them in our relationships. We meet them just on our own in our internal world. We meet these places, not always, but every now and again they come up to be loved, I would say, to be integrated into ourself. Okay, so love is the ability to merge with those things without losing our center. So what do I mean by center? And I think this is the missing piece in the puzzle for everyone. It's about the recognition that we all have free will. We all have will given to us from source. And I believe we're put here in these bodies, you could say in this real estate that we're given. We're given a piece of the universe's real estate. That's how I see it. And we're told, manage it, you know, create with it, you know, make things out of it, make your life out of it, you know, with everything that you've received, with all of these ancestral patterns. You need to create something out of that. You're also an immortal soul. You have all these gifts, and you also have all these shadows that are stored in your body, not just from your childhood, but from your ancestors and from your family line, right? So the question becomes, how do we love ourselves? How do we do that when we face the shadow? And I only know one way. It's you have to merge with it. So the first thing is you have to trust it. You have to trust your shadows. You have to see that they are not the enemy. They are not here to hurt you. And we don't have models for this in the world. This is why I developed OFT, which is this healing modality to assist people in understanding what it means to hold space for someone when they're in the shadow. You know, we don't have models for that, you know. Yeah, we just don't, you know. We have models for fixing, you know, like, oh, just work through it, and you know, and just you know, but we don't have models for compassionate holding space, you know. It's coming more and more. There's more and more awareness of this, that we have to hold space for trauma. There's some incredible teachers out there that are doing that. But the key thing, as far as I can see, and the missing piece in the puzzle, is this thing about will. So when we meet our shadow, we have to recognize that in that moment, we do have free will. We do have choice. And what is the choice? The choice is to meet those shadows with love, or with, even if we don't use love, we can say with acceptance. We use our awareness to meet those shadows with love. That's what it means not to lose our center. It means to exercise our will. It means to exercise our choice, because we're using it all the time. We're using our choice all the time. And that choice is coming from the soul. It's not coming from the personality. It's that part of us that's aware. So if you notice, when you meet these shadows, right? You know, personally, when you meet the shadows, there's a part of you that's aware of the shadows. Yes or no?
Absolutely. I think
Right.
if you're aware of what the shadow is, then you will definitely. And
That's it.
when you say, you know, on a daily basis, when the shadow is coming up for shadow enactment within you, and you have to meet it with love, what do you mean by that?
Exactly. So what I mean by that is not to see it as wrong, number one. It's obviously part of your evolution. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. That's a form of self-love, to accept the fact that you have these shadows, that you have these issues in your life. That is self-love. I have this. Okay. And trusting that more than trusting the part of you that wants to run from that, or the part of you that wants to push that down, or the part of you that wants to judge yourself because you have it. You have to trust those patterns more than anything else.
Gotcha.
And that's why I'm saying we don't have role models for that.
Absolutely. And
so that's been my life. That's how I've developed everything, is through trusting those inside of me.
And I think that there may be a lot of people who are watching this video where many will understand the concept of the shadow, etc. But for those individuals who may not be so far along the path, how can they tell that their shadow is coming up? You know, what are the feelings that they can look for?
Oh, I love that question, Lisa. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing me back down to earth. So, like, if you look at your life, if all of your viewers or listeners look at their life, they will see that they have this flow in their life, that things are just going along, you know, right? You know, we all have that. We have these days where we're just flowing, you know, and we're just following. We feel, I would say, we feel centered in ourselves. We feel relaxed in ourselves. We feel very relaxed, and we're flowing. Okay, and then suddenly something happens, and we stop flowing. We stop enjoying. You know, suddenly something comes up that's, maybe it's an injustice. You know, that's a big one. You know, maybe it's an injustice, and suddenly we're faced with these other feelings. We're no longer flowing. We're more in a place of restriction. That is an example of the shadow. It feels like you're suddenly restricted. You're suddenly frozen, I would say, almost frozen. And then what we do is we then start to respond to that. And usually how we do is we respond in many different ways. We blame someone, we blame ourselves, we do all sorts of things, or we try and avoid it. That was a big one for me for many years. When I felt these constrictions inside of me, I would sleep, or I would take drugs, or I would distract myself, so and this is why in my courses I always share my own journey, so that people don't feel like I'm on some pedestal, because I'm still dealing with this every single day, and it's part of my mission is to humanize and bring down to earth this. So I love that question you asked. So it's a flow, we're in a flow, and then suddenly something happens and we feel constricted. We feel like we're not ourselves. It usually is something like, I don't feel myself right now. That's a shadow.
And that's a shadow. Beautiful, thank you. In terms of, I want to look at us as individuals. So our soul has this incarnation in a particular body. Are there certain shadow themes that our soul would choose in that lifetime that would continue to come up in different levels and layers? Or is it many, many different shadows?
No, I mean, it falls into about what we call the 6 core wounds of humanity. So they're repression or fear, it's denial or violence, anger, frustration, it's shame, it's rejection, it's guilt, and it's separation. Those are the 6 core wounds of humanity. So all of us, all human beings, are dealing with one of those wounds at any one time, and ultimately, the ultimate wound is separation from our source, separation from the connection with our soul. And this is one of the biggest frustrations in people's lives, is that let me ask you this question, because I always ask all my students, so you go to a course, you have this incredible opening, your heart opens, or you read a book and you get inspired, and then you go to sleep, and when you wake up in the morning, that state is gone, right? How many of you had that experience? You've had it, right? Okay. So that is the very issue that we need to resolve. Like, how do we open up the communication pathways to our soul so that it becomes more consistent? That is my life. That's part of my life mission, is to, and Wuji Gong, what I'm going to be teaching, and maybe Robin can come here and explain, because I introduced Wuji Gong to her this summer, and she saw that it gave a consistent result of really giving you that opening and that connection to your soul. It didn't take her shadows away, but it gave her a way to connect with the soul, the inner pathways. We have to open up the inner pathways to the soul. It's not enough just to meditate, okay? We actually have to understand how to access the soul on a consistent basis. That is my work. That's what I'm passionate about.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robin, do you want to share a little bit about Wuji Gong?
So Wuji Gong really is a very, very special practice. It's really unique amongst any of the practices I've worked with for many over the years, in that, as Andrew was saying, it's given me a way to consistently access that love at my core. And it's just, it's such a simple form on the surface, but the more I practice it day by day, it just keeps, the benefits just keep getting more and more profound. And I just find I'm starting to feel more and more in all aspects of my life, physically as well as emotionally and mentally, spiritually. Being able to consistently access that space is allowing me to be able to work with those shadows as they arise and hold that space for them. And it's really my favorite practice ever.
Why did you do this? What made you want to learn this? Or how did you meet Andrew? Tell us about the story.
So I came to know of Andrew through my dear friends Alexandra Cousins and Gary Cousins. They had a Gene Keys reading, which is a whole different aspect of Andrew, which he's not going to have time to share on this visit. But they'd had a reading with him and really recommended that. So I had a reading with him also, and it was absolutely profound. The clarity that it brought me in terms of my purpose, what I'm here to do, as well as my shadow aspects that I need to work with in order to transmute those into the gifts that I'm here to offer the world. So I was profoundly moved and just felt a deep resonance, soul resonance with Andrew from the first time I met him. And then I had the opportunity to meet him in person in Bali in June. And since then, yeah, I've been able to, I attended 3 different retreats where he was either the primary facilitator or co-facilitating. And everything that I've learned from him has really profoundly affected my life. And Wuji Gong, the Inner Alchemy, these practices are so special for me because they allow me to access the source energy and cultivate it within my body. And there are no other practices that I've worked with before which have given me this. And so, you know, Wuji Gong is a part of the Inner Alchemy, and I consider all of these really like the most precious spiritual gifts I have received. So
beautiful.
Very grateful to Andrew and very excited that he's decided to come to South Africa and share these teachings with us.
Honestly, Wuji Gong is like a gift from God. You know, it's a living form. It's a transmission form. It was created 800 years ago by a Taoist immortal. It was passed down from a lineage. It's like all of these, you know, these powerful transmissions. And it was passed down from, you know, master to disciple for 800 years. And it was only in the early 1990s that this very old Chinese man that went through the Cultural Revolution, and he attributed, you know, Wuji Gong to, you know, saving his life. He started teaching it and bringing it into the public in Hong Kong. He started teaching it as a health modality originally to help people with heart disease, with diabetes, and with all these things. And he actually started to share it with a few Westerners. And I was lucky enough to study with one of those Westerners, Michael Wynn from America. And literally, I've been spreading it all around the world ever since, you know. And so there's many teachers of this form. It's very easy to learn. It's so simple, you know. It's just a simple, beautiful, easy practice, you know. And it's so effortless, you know, and so easy, but it's so profound, you know. It's the favorite thing I have to teach, because after people have done these movements, this inner space starts to open up. And so my favorite part on the course is when everyone lies down and they go into their soul and they start to feel all these feelings and often they'll come out and their eyes are like, oh my God, where did I go? What did I touch? You know? Mm-hmm. And it's just worth it for me to teach it for that, to see people's faces, you know? But then the profundity, if you do it as a regular practice, is really phenomenal, as Robin sort of pointed out. I mean, it's really the greatest spiritual gift I ever received. I would say that the transmission of the gene keys as well, for giving clarity about what our soul is here to transmute. I would say those 2 things are the greatest spiritual gifts I ever received in my life, you know. And of course, meeting my alchemy teacher, who was originally it was Master Mantak Chia, but I've, you know, since being with him, I have so much great gratitude to him, but I've really evolved a lot of what he taught me and created my own sort of school in a way, you know, but which is actually what the whole role of a teacher is to actually encourage their students to become, you know,
teachers,
to become independent and to develop their own gifts, you know. And that's my mission as well with everyone that I work with, is to give that spiritual independence to everyone.
Yeah. I love that. And do you believe, obviously you do, but in terms of using this Wuji Gong and the OFT, etc., these practices, that it won't only benefit ourselves, but can it also create healing in terms of our ancestral trauma and what we carry within our genetic lines, etc., within our family lines?
Yeah, this is the number one issue affecting all human souls. It's not the trauma we experienced in our childhood. That is actually quite simple and easy to start to resolve. It's these really deep issues that are passed down through the bloodline that most people struggle with, you know, And so when you start to become aware of that, and you have to become aware of it in the body primarily, this is why I developed OFT and why I do a lot of ritual work, group ritual work. Like, it's like family constellations, but it's another level. It's called systemic constellations, where we're looking at things at a very deep level. So, because actually to heal these collective wounds, we can't really do it on our own. We have to do it as a group. because those wounds, they're so big, they're so powerful, and they can overwhelm the individual. So this is why I teach self-love first and foremost, because unless you have self-love as the basis, it's when you do meet a collective wound, and you will, by the way, when you start to transform your own individual karma and your own, your childhood and these types of things, then the collective goes, oh, this human being has the capacity to hold a center for these collective wounds. And so, that's why I'm saying you have to have self-love as the foundation. You can't approach the collective until you have self-love at the individual level. And let me remind you, what is self-love? Self-love is the ability to merge with anything or anyone or any state inside of you without losing your awareness of your choice, without losing awareness that you can choose. You can choose to either run from that pattern, or you can choose to accept it on behalf of the whole. You could even do it this is something very powerful that I do in my classes. I say, look, if you want to resolve these shadows, and especially the collective ones, don't do it for you. Do it for your children. Do it for future generations, so that your children won't have to do this. And I find that's a much better motivator than just doing it for ourselves. Let's do it for our children. Let's do it for the future of humanity, because they're the ones that actually take it on, in the same way that we took it on from our parents, And this is the deepest sadness in our collective, I would say, is that we keep repeating. We keep repeating, we keep repeating, we keep repeating. So something has to change. And part of my mission is to clarify how to have self-love, how to really have self-love. And it's not about forcing ourselves. It's not about pushing ourselves. It's not about trying to push through things. It's really the feminine way, I would say the divine feminine way, to really deeply accept that we have these shadows, and it's okay. It's human, actually. It's human to have them. So that's the answer to the question. First is self-love, and be able to hold the space for your own shadows. Once you do that, then you can start approaching, your family, your bloodline, issues in your family, and so forth. But we need to do it with others, not just alone. It's not so fun to do it alone,
Amazing. Thank you, Andrew. So I would love to know, and everybody else watching this, you are coming to Johannesburg. We're so incredibly excited to have you and for you to share.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you please tell us more about the 2 workshops that you'll be hosting, and as well as what dates and where are they, so anybody who feels a pull on their heartstrings can connect with you?
So the first one is the 23rd and the 24th of November. And correct me if I'm not correct here, Robin, but that's right, isn't it? 23rd. So that's going to be the Wuji Gong. And the reason I put that one first is because you don't have to take a lot in. You can just come and learn this form and start to get a sense of the transmission that's flowing through me, and to get in touch with these healing principles and start to open up the connection to your soul. So that's Wuji Gong. It's TaiChi for enlightenment. I guarantee you'll learn it by the end of the first day. It's super easy to learn. You'll have it for the rest of your life. So even if you don't even come and study with me anymore, you've received this beautiful living transmission. It's a living form of Qigong. It means it's passed down, and you get the benefit of everyone who's practiced it before you. It truly is an enlightenment form. It's designed to open up the pathways to your soul. So that's the first one on the 23rd and 24th. And then on the next weekend, the 30th of November and the 1st of December, I'm going to be training at the first level of my body work approach, which is really how to bring this self-love into touch. How do we bring self-love into touch? How do we hold space for the body to unwind? And so this is something I've developed over the last 35 years. I mean, I studied with TaiChi from the ages, well, let me see. That's a little bit of a lie. That's not true. Hang on. I got to calculate. What I mean is I had my spiritual awakening when I was 21, but I met TaiChi when I was around about 30, 32, something like that. So I learned Qi Ne Sang from him, which is the abdominal modality that he teaches. But I never really truly resonated with it. My approach to it was always a little bit more gentle than his teaching, and I love his teaching on it. It's an amazing teaching. I'm not judging it in any way, but what I did was I started to get this download about what it means to really heal. And what it really means is what I've shared already. We have to be able to hold space and not lose our awareness when we feel these shadows. And so I developed OFT as a body modality to do that, because it's so much easier if someone's touching us or holding us to allow these shadows to arise. So the way I work, what people will learn on this course, and they don't have to become a therapist. It's just a way to learn how to hold space for other people. Basically, it's very simple. So basically, the first level is just helping the nervous system relax. So that is one of the missing things I see in all modalities, is we don't give enough time for the body to truly relax. So OFTs, we spend about 30 minutes on the back, on the adrenals, on the spine, just touching in a very unconditional way so that the body starts to let down the stress out of the body. I actually have a video that I'm going to post. I'm just waiting for permission from the person who was under my hands to post it, because I don't want her to be in the public, because she had this incredible experience of the stress coming out of her body, and it was so beautiful to see. But it takes time for that to happen, So the stress has to come out of the body, first of all. And once the stress starts to leave the body, and it's a really powerful, that is in itself incredibly healing. Once the stress comes out of the body, then I turn people over and I teach them and I share with them how to hold space on the abdomen, which is where we have all these shadows and all of these feelings. It's actually in the abdominal area, in other parts of the body as well. But I help people hold space for that. And because they're so relaxed, their mind is no longer engaged. And all they're doing is feeling their feelings, which is what happens with you in your plant medicines. The mind just gets totally out of there, right? And you're just experiencing, I would say, with plant medicine. OFT is the same. I would just say it's probably a little bit more gentle. I don't want to make any judgments about plant journeys, but the ones I've been on have been quite intense. So I would say OFT is sort of quite gentle, but it allows you to feel things fully.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I hope that explains it all. I hope that's the best way I can.
Absolutely. And Andrew, just for those people, those individuals who are in South Africa, or let's say they can't make the workshop, do you do trainings online, or does it have to be in person?
Ideally, it's really good to receive in person, because you need the touch. You need this unconditional touch. But I'm in the process of creating. It's funny you say that. I'm in the process of creating online trainings, and one of the things people can do is that they'll receive a free video, a free audio with me if they sign up for this course. It's a meditation on forgiveness and releasing ancestral pressure and things like this. So we have that available with some nice music. But yeah, people can, I have training all over the world. People can also do personal sessions with me. I can do like soul readings for people, where I can really show them what the soul is attempting to learn in this time. So that's a way people can interact with me, like Robin's done that with me. And I use the gene keys. I use evolutionary astrology. And it's a wonderful little tool, to help people see, oh, my soul is attempting to do this, and once you see that, it's like, oh, wow. Yeah.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. And Robs, thank you for bringing this incredible human to South Africa.
Oh, so grateful that you decided to. Thank you so much.
One other thing though, Robin, you had OFT with me for the first time in Bali, right? Do you want to share what that was like for you? Because it was interesting, I think.
It was really powerful. So, I've done a lot of work with different trauma-specific modalities, mostly TRE and a therapy called SHIP. And I was never quite sure, if I was actually benefiting from these sessions or if I was healing or not. And it was just so powerful. In one session with Andrew, I was just able to go so deeply into relaxation of my nervous system that it allowed me to access a really deep trauma, which I think I knew it was there, but I was still resisting it in a way. And Andrew was just holding, just through that neutral, loving space that he was holding, I was able to go there and integrate that and process it. And it was very powerful. Like my mind had no idea what was going on in the session. And even after the session, I wasn't sure what had happened. And it took me most of the next day, I was feeling like the most broken person ever. And then something shifted, and it was like almost on a cellular level, I could feel, you know, this was a real healing process that had happened. And something, yeah, it's hard to explain, but it was incredibly profound. And I realized through that we really can't overestimate the power of unconditional loving touch when it comes to releasing trauma from the body. And I had another session with Andrew about a week after that, and the change in my body was just incredible. I had been holding so much tension in my abdomen before the first session, and everything was just a lot softer. The energy was flowing a lot smoother. So it was really powerful. I really feel that Andrew has captured the essence of healing through touch with this modality. So very excited again that he's going to be sharing this with us.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. And do we have time just to go into what that process is? Do we have time? Because it's very important what she said about the confusion.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, okay, so I talk about this on the level 1, the 4 stages of healing, right? So the first stage is awareness that there's something inside of us that needs to change. That's the first level of healing. Most people are at that level. They're realizing, oh, I have these shadows, or I have these constrictions. And that's when you come to a therapist, or you come to a healer, or you come to a workshop, because you're aware that something needs to change, right? So, and oftentimes we judge ourselves a lot about that. And part of what I do in OFT training is that I always share with people that is actually a very good thing, you know, that you're aware and you're ready to change. It's not like you're wrong, even though you feel wrong, right? So it's very important to understand and validate people that when they come, you really listen to them. You don't tell them why they have what they have. You just tell them, you say, okay, I hear you. You have all of this, and it's really difficult and it's challenging. You don't tell them why they have it, because you don't know why they have it. Only their body knows that, and only their soul really knows that. So this is what I don't like with many therapists, is they always try and put you in a box. And we can't be put in a box. Okay, so that's the first level, awareness. And that needs to be validated. It's a very important stage, right? The next stage, and it's what happens often in OFT, is confusion. And many therapies miss this. They don't understand that before you have breakthrough, you have confusion, where the new person that you want to be hasn't shown up yet. That new person hasn't shown up yet. So you don't know who you're going to be. So that's confusing, you know, and that's exactly what Robin was sharing. And that's my experience. Every time I give OFT to someone, they have to integrate those changes, you know, and it can be very confusing. And if you're not validated in that, same with plant medicine, you probably see that people, when they come out of that, they go into a confusing time, right? Because they have to integrate that. Do you know? I mean, sometimes you break through immediately and you have that breakthrough, but in my experience, you enter this period of confusion.
Absolutely.
And then you have the breakthrough, and then you have integration. Then you have to integrate that into your life. And that can be a challenging time as well, because everyone around you relates to you to the old person you were, and now you become this new, different person. So people need validation on all those stages. You know, awareness, confusion, breakthrough, integration. All healing processes go through those 4 stages. And yeah, so it's important. This is, again, part of my mission is to clarify what healing actually is, because a lot of us we don't have clarity on that, you know.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Well, hopefully we are going to get all these beautiful humans to come and share with you and learn from you. And we look forward to having you here in South Africa. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And remember that Wuji Gong, you know, this first workshop, this is about connecting with your own resources. So all of the things that I teach, these tools, Wuji Gong and OFT, in the end, it's designed to connect you with your soul, which is where all healing comes from, where all your gifts come from. So please, I really want to make it clear that Wuji Gong and OFT is not what does the healing. It's your soul and your connection to the divine that does the healing. Okay, these are just tools. They're not they're not your soul. Okay, I want to make that really clear because it's important for people.
And
Same as the plant medicine. It's in the end, the plant medicine connects you with your soul.
And just one more thing, can anybody come for these workshops, or do you have to be a healer, or it's open?
No. It's open to everyone. In fact, I prefer complete beginners. It's wonderful. Even people that are old can come to the Wuji because it's so simple. It's not like a martial art where you have to be really flexible. No, anyone can come. Even if you have bad knees or a bad back, you come and practice Wuji Gong. It will it will heal your life. I promise you. It's the most magical, wonderful form. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you, Lisa. This was an amazing interview. This is one of the best interviews I've ever done. I'm just so happy we recorded it. You're recording, right? Please send me a copy. I love this. It's great.
I will do.